Antonio Lobo Antunes, Portuguese writer who's also very good. He's often called the Portuguese Faulkner, and he's still alive, and he's one of the great writers of our time. But because he's from Portugal, I suppose that means he might not be as famous as other people. But he's a genius, and the language is like this rushing torrent of memory and intensity, and in some ways he's a little bit of akin to Bellow, although very, very different. More like Faulkner.
I am reading a book of nonfiction, Jonah Lehrer's book about the neurological basis of creativity.
Right now I am reading, what is it even called? I'm trying to remember. 1,000 Autumns of Jacob de Zoet, I think that's how you say it, by David Mitchell.
I'm about to read Lola, California by Edie Maydave, and I was just through The Transit of Venus, and I'm a big Booker Prize winner reader and Booker Prize nominee winner, so that, Booker Prize nominee list is often a good place for me to go to look for books.
I'm reading Hunger Games now. I had a long flight, and I bought Hunger Games for the flight, and I'm reading Hunger Games. I'm enjoying Hunger Games, I gotta say. I didn't think I would, because I tried to read Harry Potter on everyone's suggestion, and I didn't enjoy that. And Hunger Games, I'm liking. It feels kind of dark and in a Star Wars-y way.
I'm reading When We Were Orphans by Kazuo Ishiguro. I love it. It's very interesting. It's like a lot of his books, quite subtle and quiet and stealthy in what it's doing early on. And he observes the world perfectly, draws you in, but at the same time, you don't really know what's going to happen or what is even happening. I love the particular kind of mystery in Ishiguro books.
The Tempest. I'm interested in The Tempest right now because it's actually a crazy work of literature which shouldn't work at all, because it has a hero who's almost like a villain, and it has different kinds of plots that don't have anything to do with one another, and yet at the same time it's transcendently magic and full of hope and optimism.
A couple books. I'm reading the first novel of a friend of mine named Josh Henkin, which is called Swimming Across the Hudson, and I'm also rereading Yankov Glatstein's Yash novels, which were Yiddish novels from the 30s. The Henkin book so far, I haven't read much of it, seems fascinating. It's about kids who grew up in Manhattan, two brothers who grew up who are both adopted, and were thinking through the ways that adoption inflects their connection to Jewish life. And I find that a really fascinating and very timely kind of subject. Glatstein is one of the great lost, not really lost, Yiddish writers, American Yiddish writers. And these novels are about the trip he took back to Poland to visit with his family, after having lived in America for many years and having gone to law school. And he's just an incredibly acute observer of types, and both Jewish and non-Jewish types, on the sea voyage back to Europe. It's an incredible book.
Wright Morris's Plain Song. Plain Song is a book I reread every year. It's a gorgeous book about three generations of a Nebraska family by Wright Morris, who was a great Midwestern writer who lived many years in California, who is not nearly as well known as he should be. But it's a book that I love dearly.
One book that I don't think enough people have read that I absolutely love is Adele Wiseman's novel Crackpot from 1974, which, if I tell you, is a deeply meaningfully Jewish book about an obese prostitute in Winnipeg. I hope gives you a sense of what is fascinating about it.
How about a great WASP novel, Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates? Kind of the pinnacle of realist fiction, beautifully epic drama of the dissolution of a family in the 60s, kind of an assault on the mythology of the American dream of moving to the suburbs and having a family. Just a beautiful, heart-wrenching book.
Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. An oldie but a goodie, a typical answer. It has to be, but it's a classic. There's nothing like Pride and Prejudice when read properly, which is to say not as a romance, not Jack and Jill sitting in the tree, but as this supreme work of ironic humor and kindness and generosity, and with all of these deep and subtle insights into the nature of the human soul.
The ghostwriter, Philip Roth. He, formally speaking, it's extraordinarily tight, and it probably is the most important post-war American book about the Holocaust and about the way American Jews have imagined or reimagined it in a way wrench it out of its actual historical context.
I recently really enjoyed The Frozen Rabbi by Steve Stern, which is literally about a teenager in Memphis who discovers a 19th century Hasidic Rebbe in his parents' meat freezer. And then there's a power failure and the man defrosts. And hijinks ensue. But he's a terrific writer, and he's, it sounds, it's a crazy premise, but it goes to more, profound places in that book. And I also recently really enjoyed A Curable Romantic by Joseph Skibell.
You know what's a book that a lot of people don't know about that I really do want to recommend is by a Canadian writer named Timothy Findley. And it's called Not Wanted on the Voyage. And it's a retelling of the Noah's Ark story from a radical, subversive point of view. And it was one of the books that, again, inspired me to write mine, and also helped a little bit turn my view of the world upside down in a good way, and really reinvented the original text, the Bible, one of the original texts.
Civil War Land in Bad Decline by George Saunders. Because it contains a few of the best short stories ever written, and all the way through it's great, but there are a few standouts in there that are just so good that one should not live without reading them.